After a year or so of living in the apartment next to the church provided for Connie and I a house. The house was away from the church, like about 3 miles. It was like right on the Mississippi River. There was the Mississippi River, then River Drive, and then First Avenue. And we lived on First Avenue. There was a lot out in front, parking lot out in front of us, and so we really looked out our front porch right at the Mississippi River, and to the left of looking out was the bridge that connected Davenport, Iowa, and Moline, Illinois. So we were right there on the border of those two states. Now, Connie was pregnant, and so we moved to the house. It was really, I think, for that reason they gave us this two-bedroom place. And in September 30th, Carrie was born. And that spring, she was just a few months old, there was an incredible tornado that touched down, and it came across the Mississippi River. It seemed to me that it landed on the Mississippi River. I know there was water really sprouting all over the place, but I'm not sure if it can or not. I mean, I hear different stories, but I'll tell you this: it did come from the west across the Mississippi River toward us, and we were told what to do. We knew ahead of time we were in an area that was very highly prone to tornadoes, so we went to the basement to the right corner. And when I say we, it was Connie and I, and she was holding Carrie. So we were there for a while, and trying to hear the reports. And so I took a risk and went upstairs and heated some water for us to have a cup of tea or something. And when I was coming back down, I looked out the back window. Now, the back window there was we had a garage on a detached garage, and there was an alleyway that came along there, and these railroad tracks. And there was a young man on his tricycle riding across and heading right toward where the tornado was soon to come down. Now, John was a special needs person. He was mentally slow. I don't know what spectrum he was on. We didn't really think much about that back then. In any event, he did know the Lord, though. He received Christ as a Savior. He knew that, and was a bit odd in some ways, but he was in the college career group, and so he was one of my folks, and so we got to know him, and he came to our place, and so I was concerned. I told Connie I really have to go out and see what he's doing, and try to stop him and bring him down here with us. And so I ran out in the alley. I came down and I turned the corner and facing now the Mississippi River. And then now by this time the clouds were dark. It was just a really wicked churning and turning of dark clouds, and it settled down. And of course, it was raining hard, and I couldn't see him. And I just extended my hand. I said, Lord, he's going right into this thing. Protect him. So that night, we survived that night, and that morning, I headed toward the church. There was this Quonset hut that had all this air filter factory that was there, and that thing was decimated, and there was pieces of cardboard all over everything, and the telephone poles at the top of them were kind of like chopped off. And I went along and I passed the cemetery. There were graves turned over, all kinds of trees were down, and I had to kind of wind around, and I finally got to the church. And when I got there, I saw John, and apparently he got there and spent the night. I don't know if he's in shelter or whatever, but in any event, I said, John, I saw you last night uh, going into that tornado. I was concerned for you. I tried to stop you, brother, but I'm so glad you made it. And he said, yes, yes, Pastor, it was very difficult, though. I had to kind of work my way around wires and trees and debris. I said, John, you should have stopped at our place when you knew you couldn't make it. I thought you could make it all the way back. In any event, that's our story of a tornado, and I was grateful that John's life was spared. Now, there were a lot of tornadoes in that part of the United States that year. 1974 was a bad year. I think there was one where over 300 people were killed. I don't think there was anybody that died in ours, but there was a lot of destruction of property and farms and that, and farmhouses and that. But we all rejoiced that no one had lost their lives in the community, and so there we were. It's my first and only tornado to ever experience, and We were glad to survive it, and we were glad that John did too. More to come.